The sky over Vale Prime was burning violet, a sickly, desperate hue, when the last orbital elevator finally snapped, tearing a gouge in the atmosphere. 17 civilized species, some with millennia of interstellar travel under their belts, had heard the pleas for help, considered them, and then quietly, efficiently ignored them. So, the Council, faced with an extinction-level event, did the unthinkable. They pinged the Death World in Sector 12, that infamous blue-green marble known as Earth, and, against all logic, prayed the legends were exaggerated. Spoiler, they weren't. Ambassador Lyra of Vale stood in the shattered Council dome, the wind whistling through gaping holes where once proud crystalline structures had stood. Her delicate, iridescent feathers, usually a symbol of Vale pride, were slick with panic sweat, clinging uncomfortably to her form. "To whom it may concern," she began, her voice a fragile tremor across the quantum relay, a desperate whisper into the vast, uncaring void. "We require humanitarian relief, medical ships, food, mediation. Our world is dying." Silence. A silence that stretched, heavy and profound, across light years. The great Accord empires, the opulent Polylux, the stoic Cthar, even the supposedly benevolent Igreen hierarchy, known for its ancient wisdom and technological might, each sent courteous regrets. Their fleets, they explained with carefully modulated tones, were repositioning for stability. The translation was stark and brutal. The hunters, a predatory scourge of the outer colonies, were chewing through everything in their path, and no one, absolutely no one, wanted to be next. Their own survival, however comfortable, took precedence over Vale's plight. So, with a heavy heart and a profound sense of dread, Lyra opened the forbidden channel. A channel long sealed, reserved for only the most dire, most hopeless of circumstances. "Earth?" she whispered, the name itself a curse, a prayer, a desperate gamble. The database entry, stark and unforgiving, immediately popped up on her console. Class 12D HWRLD. Native species, human. Threat index, extreme. Recommendation, avoid. Even the automated warning systems seemed to shiver at the designation. But extinction had a way of focusing the mind, of stripping away all pretense and fear. With a feather-light touch, Lyra hit send. Then, in the echoing ruins of her world, she waited. Across the galaxy, in countless ivory towers and sterile research stations, academics still argued how Earth ever managed to produce tool users, let alone spacefarers. The very notion defied galactic biological and evolutionary doctrine. Its gravity, a crushing 9.8 meters per square second, was enough to pulp the skeletal structures of most sapient species, turning their hips to dust with a casual step. The atmosphere, a hyperreactive chemical cocktail boasting 21% oxygen, was something the rest of the galaxy meticulously kept in fire suppression canisters, not as a primary breathing gas. And the biosphere? Actively trying to kill you, from microscopic pathogens to apex predators. Yet, the dominant apex species on this planet not only survived there, they thrived. They built towering cities, harnessed unimaginable energies, and, perhaps most bafflingly, constructed colossal theme parks dedicated to thrill-seeking and simulated danger. One particularly unsettling footnote in the Accord's heavily redacted file recorded a human sailor who had survived 30 days adrift on an open ocean by drinking filtered seawater and, as the report incredulously stated, punching sharks. Sharks, by the way, were described as 6-meter flesh torpedoes, streamlined engines of pure predation, that Earthlings apparently treated as a form of sport or a minor inconvenience. The Accord had long dismissed the entire file as crude, aggressive propaganda, a cautionary tale fabricated to deter interstellar expansion. Vale, however, didn't have that luxury anymore. The cold, hard data of their impending annihilation had overwritten all previous assumptions. 3 rotations later, the very fabric of orbit cracked open, not with the gentle hum of an elegant jump drive, but with a guttural, tearing sound that rattled the remaining Vale structures. There were no sleek crystal cruisers, no polite envoy shuttles, no delicate diplomatic vessels. Instead, a Terran assault carrier, the UES Temper, belched into real space. Its armor was scorched black, not from recent battle but from countless atmospheric re-entries, so many times that its hull looked less like a starship and more like a piece of charred toast, testament to a brutal, practical existence. Its docking clamps, rather than being precision-engineered mechanisms, appeared to be welded on railroad spikes, crude and undeniably effective. The comms burst alive, not with a clear, modulated signal, but with a voice like gravel soaked in stale coffee, a sound that conveyed both weariness and an unsettling readiness. Veil Control, this is Captain Vega. You called for help. We brought options. Behind him, on the flickering sensor feeds, massive cargo crates were being unloaded. Each was crudely stenciled with the word, options. These were being handled by soldiers whose smiles, visible even through the grainy feed, were somehow scarier than the railguns slung across their backs. Ambassador Lyra swallowed, her vocalizer catching in her throat. We requested aid, she managed, a plea more than a statement. The voice from the temper rumbled back, utterly devoid of irony. Yeah, that's us. Aid with a capital A. The humans deployed before the Veil Council could even finish arguing about proper protocol, about diplomatic niceties or established first contact procedures. There were no diplomats, no carefully selected linguists, no cultural attaches. Just engineers, medics, and a lot of individuals whose business cards, if they bothered with such things, would likely simply read problem solver. They moved with an unsettling efficiency, an almost casual disregard for the shattered environment, as if this level of chaos was just another Tuesday Hunter Raiders, emboldened by Veil's crumbling defenses, struck that very night. Their monstrous forms, all chitin and razor claws, swarmed through the twilight. The Veil militia, caught in the open, broke formation after the first plasma volley. Their exoskeletons, designed for ceremonial parades and light defense, were utterly useless against the brutal, kinetic force of true warfare. They scattered, their fear palpable even from a distance. The humans, however, watched the rout with an almost detached curiosity. Then, with a calm that bordered on unnerving, they began to unpack what appeared to be garden hoses. Well, to be precise, they were 12mm magneto-hose cannons, industrial-grade implements of destruction. They pressurized the lines not with water, but with liquid tungsten, superheated and accelerated to incredible velocities. When the hunters charged, confident in their easy victory, the hoses flailed like berserk cobras, whipping through the air with deafening cracks, shearing through chitin and organic armor at Mach 3. Alien children, witnessing the terrifying spectacle from behind shattered fortifications, later, perhaps in an attempt to rationalize the horror, called the scene the Sprinkler Festival. It lasted a mere 9 minutes. Afterward, a Veil nurse, still trembling, approached a human private, her voice barely a whisper. Why? She asked, her eyes wide with a mixture of terror and bewilderment. Did you laugh mid-fight? The private, wiping some alien gore from his cheek, merely shrugged. Adrenaline's cheaper than therapy, ma'am. Gets the job done. She recorded the answer, not understanding half the words, the casual Earth slang utterly foreign, but sensing galaxies of unspoken history, of a species forged in fire and tempered by a constant, brutal struggle. Morning briefings were held in a half-collapsed cafeteria, the air thick with dust and the acrid scent of ozone. Humans, seemingly impervious to the grim surroundings, sipped coffee, a boiling dihydrogen monoxide stimulant, highly toxic to most carbon-based life forms, yet consumed by them with an almost religious fervor. One Veil observer, a particularly delicate scholar, actually fainted when a human sergeant cracked his knuckles. The sound, amplified in the enclosed space, resembled a subsonic bone fracture, a sound of structural failure. Then came breakfast. Reconstituted eggs, caffeine pills that looked suspiciously like industrial-grade medication, and a vitamin paste labeled, with a disquieting lack of confidence, probably safe. Humans ate, their movements precise and unhurried, while casually cleaning carbon scoring off their boots with a damp cloth, as if enjoying a picnic. An elder, watching with wide, fearful eyes, whispered, "They digest poison for fuel." Captain Vega, overhearing the comment as he chewed on something vaguely resembling a nutrient bar, merely raised an eyebrow. "Madam," he stated, his voice still gravelly, "everything's poison at the right dose. We just upped the dose and kept walking. He then excused himself, still chewing, leaving a trail of profound unease in his wake. Scout drones, deployed with surprising stealth, quickly painted a detailed picture of a primary hunter nest, deep beneath Vale's twin moons. Conventional galactic doctrine dictated a protracted siege, a methodical starve-out, and then, perhaps, a negotiation from a position of strength. Human doctrine, however, was somewhat different. Surprise, sunrise, and a carefully curated soundtrack. They loaded a single dropship with enough mining charges to level a small mountain, a collection of vintage surf rock anthems, and one board pilot who, it turned out, moonlighted as a drummer. At 0400, precisely as the moons dipped below the horizon, they executed a dive bomb maneuver, dropping silently through the atmosphere. The pilot then kicked the drum kit, which was somehow secured to the exterior of the craft, into vacuum. The sound waves, unable to travel in the void, wouldn't alert ground sensors. Then, with terrifying precision, they detonated the mining charges sequentially, each earth-shattering blast timed perfectly to the drum solo of Wipe Out. The Hunter Queen, a monstrosity of a creature, was vaporized mid-guitar riff, her entire nest collapsing into a fiery crater. Orbital telescopes, tracking the unexpected energy signature, captured the resulting fireball. For a brief, glorious moment, it spelled out a crude, yet undeniably deliberate, smiley face in the Vailian sky. Vale schoolchildren, studying the historical records of the incident, learned a new word that day: aesthetic. After the unexpected, brutal victory, Ambassador Lyra confronted Captain Vega in the temporary courtyard set up amidst the still smoldering ruins. "You enjoy slaughter," she accused, her wings trembling. Her voice edged with disgust and a nascent, terrifying admiration. Vega's eyes, however, were hollow, reflecting a weariness that went beyond mere fatigue. "I enjoy waking up," he stated, his voice flat. "The difference matters, Ambassador." He activated a holographic display, projecting a swirling tapestry of Earth's history. Wars, genocides, famines, tsunamis, plagues. Images of cities burning, then rising from ashes. "We grew up in a classroom that flunks you permanently," he explained, his gaze fixed on the brutal imagery. "Mercy is an ideal. Survival is a prerequisite. We learned that lesson early, and we learned it hard." Lyra stared at the footage, at humans rebuilding entire metropolises while rivers still burned with chemical fires, at their unyielding resilience in the face of unimaginable devastation. "So you become the monster," she whispered, the thought curdling in her mind. "To save the meadow?" Vega shook his head slowly. "No, we become the monster that scares bigger monsters. Meadows stay meadows because someone uglier stood guard, because someone was willing to get their hands dirty and face what others couldn't." Silence stretched between them, thick with unspoken truths and the weight of harsh realities. A medic, brisk and efficient, called Vega away for a report. Lyra realized she had no rebuttal, only a profound, unsettling gratitude wrapped tightly in a shroud of pure terror. The humans were not heroes in the traditional sense, not saviors cloaked in light. They were something far older, far more dangerous. News feeds across the entire galaxy exploded. The Polylux senators, ever concerned with order and established protocols, immediately demanded sanctions, decrying the unauthorized interference of a Class 12 species. The Cthar traders, ever pragmatic, tripled Earth's galactic credit rating overnight, seeing immense, untapped potential in a species so adept at problem-solving through violence. The ancient Igrene hierarchy, known for their rigid adherence to galactic stability, issued a formal, indignant protest, labeling humans unstable variables that threatened the delicate balance of interstellar politics. Earth's UN, in a move that baffled and infuriated galactic diplomats, responded with a single, cryptic emoji: "Chew." Markets swung so violently, trading in sentient futures paused across the galactic exchange, unable to comprehend the sheer unpredictability of this new player. Back on Vale, however, far from the halls of power, children painted crude human skulls on their kites. not as symbols of death, but as powerful wards against the encroaching night, against the monsters that once preyed on them. A new proverb, born from fear and a grudging respect, quickly spread: better the devil you shocked than the angel that ignored you. With the immediate threat neutralized and the hunter remnants scattered, human repair crews set about restoring the orbital infrastructure. Their efficiency bordered on witchcraft, the shattered remnants of Vialian technology quickly yielding to their brutal, practical engineering solutions. Within a week, the skies were clear, the orbital elevators functional once more. Before their departure, Captain Vega sought out Lyra in the newly stabilized command center. He presented her with a small, unassuming metal sphere. "Fusion generator," he grunted, the coffee gravel voice softening almost imperceptibly. "Enough juice for 3 centuries. Try not to eat it." Lyra managed a weak, almost disbelieving laugh. "Why help us?" she asked, the question heavy with wonder. He looked up at the sky, his gaze seeming to pierce through the newly repaired orbital platforms, past the stars, as if seeing something far beyond. "Because one day," he said, a rare note of vulnerability in his tone, "Earth will call, and we'll need someone left to answer." Their ships, the Temper and its accompanying fleet of equally scarred vessels, lifted off, leaving contrails shaped like outstretched fingers, a silent, powerful gesture across the void. Veil astronomers, charting their rapid departure, recorded them not as starships, but as new, strange comets, blazing across the darkness in the wake of the human intervention. The old trade lanes reopened, albeit with a new, somewhat peculiar human escort tariff. 1 crate of local delicacies per convoy. Apparently, Deathworlders had developed a penchant for collecting alien snacks, a baffling habit to the more refined species. Veil militia, now acutely aware of their previous shortcomings, began training in 1.2G chambers, mimicking human conditioning, pushing their bodies to limits they once thought impossible. Recruits complained, loudly and often, but their commanders, with the memory of burning violet skies fresh in their minds, simply reminded them who had saved their nests. The Accord Councils, shaken to their very foundations, quietly updated Earth's entry in the galactic database. The old warnings, the recommendations for avoidance, were replaced with a new, stark reality. Class 12 Ally. Threat Index. Extreme. Recommendation. Be polite. Because the galaxy had asked for aid, for gentle diplomacy, for measured intervention. Instead, it got Earth, a planet of 8 billion problem solvers who treated apocalypse like a Tuesday workout, who had turned survival into an art form, and who, when pushed, were willing to be the monsters no one else dared to be. And next time the void whispers for help, next time a civilization faces utter annihilation, everyone will know exactly who answers that call. If that story punched you in the adrenaline, if it left you wondering about the vast, terrifying, and utterly magnificent potential of humanity, then drop a like. The algorithm, much like the universe, loves the feedback. Got your own HFY twist, your own vision of what makes humanity uniquely terrifying or awe-inspiring? Comment below, what should aliens expect when they call Earth next?